Welcome to Weight Loss with Plants, brought to you by the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies. I'm your host, Sharme Ridley. Our next guest has overcome a host of health challenges while managing to lose more than 100 pounds. Since then, she has devoted her life to helping others address health issues through a whole foods, plant based lifestyle. Please welcome Jeanne Schumacher. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jeanne.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. We go way back, so it's just fun just hanging out with you.
Yes, we do, because you were one of the first personalities I met actually when I became plant based back in 2017. So this is exciting to have you on the show.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Well, let's just get into it. Why don't you go on and tell us about your background with weight issues?
Well, my whole life. I mean, every diet you could possibly imagine was yeah. I've been there, done that. I did not do the you know putting in some tapeworm larvae into a pill and taking the tapeworm larvae. I didn't do that. But I thought that was a great idea. I mean, the tapeworm were eating your food and you didn't have to worry and you could still eat. That sounded great to me until you like had to do surgery to remove it. But I didn't do that. But it's been my whole life. It's been, going from one diet to another. You lose the weight and then you gain it back and then some and and you just go through this yo-yo. And yeah, it was not pleasant. I mean, you're just always constantly fighting the battle of the bulge, as I call it. So,
Now, is this something that your family battled with as well?
oh yeah, both sides, food addicts from way back. So we've got the gene, we have the fat gene. There's no question. So,
So you've had many health issues, many other health issues in the past. Tell us about those.
well, I've had tremendous migraine headaches. I had rosacea. I had or I had fatty liver syndrome. I had, gosh, urinary tract infections. Oh my gosh, that, like once a month, I would have them, and constant, and then always getting sick. I thought I was healthy, but yeah, looking back, I was like, wow, I was like the Walking Dead. And you try and heal yourself and you think you're healing yourself, but you get better and then you get sick the next, any cold flu that came around, I always had it. Constantly ill in this in the because as a teacher you got kids coughing, hacking, sneezing on you all the time. So of course you're going to get things, but I just thought it was normal part of being a teacher, that I would get all these things. But in reality, it was because my immune system was compromised. So,
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah.
it's many times when people try to lose weight, they look up on a whole food plant-based lifestyle and then they finally start to lose weight. But you found out about this lifestyle in a different way. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I hit the brick wall. And literally, it was over 105-degree fever. And at that point, I'm like, I think I should probably go to the emergency room. And they took me in. They did my blood pressure. My blood pressure is about 250 over 150. I don't know why I didn't stroke out. I mean, like literally. I think he wanted to get my attention. And it's like, do I have your attention? Yes, sir. You have my attention. Because sometimes you have to hit me over the head with a 2x4. And so the woman who was taking care of me was not only a medical doctor, but she was a nutritionist, which, as you well know, it's hard to find a doctor who's been trained in nutrition, which just absolutely is insane to me that they're not trained more in nutrition to learn about the foods that actually run this high performance vehicle. Just that's insane to me. It's absolutely insane. So, she kept asking me every time I came in, she came into the room. So, what do you eat? Talk to me about your food. Talk to me about your diet. What do you eat? What do you And finally it got through. It was like, what are you saying? So like what I eat makes a difference? I'm like, okay. So after I got out of the hospital, I survived that week. I don't know how I did because I was like, I'd never been so sick in my life. Never. And I would have these racking chills from not being able to get warm to sweating the blankets off of me, and just soaking the bed. And just that's what I did for a week. And they kept throwing every drug they could. They never figured out what it was, and I really don't care because it was my body's way of saying what you're doing is not working. And so I went to go see her as a nutritionist after I got out of the hospital, and she started me on prevent and reverse heart disease, and that was it. And then
Oh, prevent and reverse heart disease. I'm sorry to cut you off. What for our viewers? Tell us what that
So
is.
that's a book by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, and he's done a phenomenal amount of research on how you can reverse heart disease, which for many doctors, it's like they don't get it. So she started me reading that book, and I said, this is it right here. This guy makes a lot of sense, and that's it. And we, overnight, boom, went plant based. And then not long after that, the movie Forks Over Knives came out, and it was like, that's it right there. They just reiterated, and then I started going to every conference that I could find that they were doing any training, through the T. Colin Campbell training, Dr. McDougall, and I just started taking anything that I could learn about because I was voracious in wanting to learn about this. Every book that came out, I have them. They're all over this office. This is my office I'm in. They're all over everywhere. Just books. My husband's like, stop it, stop buying books. He wants to cut me off.
So tell us about a few of those books. What are some of the books that you've read, some of the documentaries that you've seen, and
Yeah,
so on?
well, I love books by Dr. Neil Barnard. He just writes in such an amazing way, an amazing fashion, and I just love his work, And I've actually he was so generous with his time because he's just ridiculously busy now. I mean, he's got the Barnard Medical Center and Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and just amazing entities in themselves. And he let me break apart his books, and we deep dove into three of them, the cheese trap, and the power foods for the brain, and your body in balance, which is all about your thyroid, which I'm actually one of the case stories in his book because I've actually healed my thyroid, along the way, which I was told by my doctor. She looked at me straight in the face and said, you'll be on medication for the rest of your life. uh no. No. So yeah, so as I started to go plant based, this is one of the things that happens is when you start to go plant based is you start to heal your body. And so let me give you an analogy. Like if you fall and scrape your knee, okay, your body's going to heal that knee if you just leave it alone. But in the time that you're healing it, it's going to be itchy, it's going to be scabby, it's going to be painful, it's going to hurt. And so I compare that to what you're going to be going through as you start to heal your body. You're going to be releasing toxins. You're going to be releasing a lot of chemicals that have been stored in your fat, obesogens, phthalates, parabens, chemicals from personal care products, chemicals from the pesticides and the products that you've been using and eating. And so a lot of these chemicals, as they start to come out, can express themselves in a variety of different ways, from pimples to to psoriasis, to you feel like you're coming down with a cold, you just feel tired. But that's your body, and you have to recognize that as symptoms of healing. Just like when you skin your knee's going to hurt for a while, and so once your knee heals, then it doesn't hurt anymore. And that's where I'm at right now. Is my body is like it's just amazing. But as I started to lose my weight, I started to detox. And as I was detoxing a lot of these chemicals, a lot of them are endocrine disruptors. And your endocrine system runs everything, based upon hormones within your body. So a lot of these chemicals are endocrine disrupting chemicals as they were coming out. And I really think that that had a huge impact on my thyroid. And so as my thyroid started to heal, or my body started to heal, my thyroid also started to heal as well. So, can you heal your thyroid? Absolutely. Absolutely. And especially as soon as you realize you're starting to have problems with your thyroid, which is, detectable with blood work. As soon as you realize that, you go plant based, there is a very good chance that you can heal that. But doctors will tell you, like my doctor said to me, she looked me straight in the eye and said, you will be on medication for the rest of your life. I'm like, yeah, no. She's like, no, you're going to be, I've never seen anybody heal their thyroid or get off medication until now.
Yeah. So now, um, so what are some other changes that you've noticed and that you've discovered throughout your plant-based transformation?
Oh, the energy. The energy is phenomenal. Absolutely. I mean, I start my day very early. I'm still teaching and I'm teaching remotely, but I'm still teaching. So my day starts early and I'm constantly working in the evening, working on, we're revising education literally in the program that we're doing. So it's mastery based, so everything is new. So I have to create everything from scratch. So I put in a lot of hours and I'm usually up late at night and my energy levels are ridiculous. And so that's one of the best parts, that, and I'm not in pain. I have no pain. I can move. I'm 61 years old. And we started doing, we have, Fitbits, right? So silly me, because my kids are scholar athletes that I'm working with. And so I said, let's have a Fitbit challenge. What was I thinking competing against teenage athletes? So just to keep them pushing them, I would get ahead, then they would get ahead. Then I would get ahead, and then they would get ahead. And then I would get ahead. And then finally, we had topped in 1 week, we had topped over 100,000 steps. So I'm like, okay, I'm 61 years old and I'm doing 100,000 steps. That's in 5 days. I'm like, that's averaging 20,000 steps a day. So not too bad at 61, that I can still do that. That I can still go out and do, I can still go out and bike and hike and kayak and do all those things that I love to do. And I'm not in pain and I'm not, I may be stiff the next day, like, like, oh, I overdid it a little bit today. That 25-mile bike ride. Maybe just 20 miles tomorrow. But I think that's the big thing is I'm not in pain. I'm not on medication, and I'm just happy being, because I think one of the things I've noticed is that we're not living longer, we're dying slower. And I see that with a lot of like my parents, my in-laws. My mother-in-law went into the nursing home at age 72 for dementia. And 72, which is, back in the day, I used to think, oh my God, that's ancient. But now it's like 72. That's like not too far from me. And she went in at 72, and it cost $4,000 a month. And this was not in a big town. This was, rural kind of place. So we had to prove before they would even take her that they could pay for 5 to 8 years. And it ended up costing my father-in-law, he had his house, they had to sell it, so he could support her in the nursing home. It started out at $4,000. She died 7 years later, okay, at age 79, and it was up to $9,000 a month. $9,000 a month. Are you putting aside that kind of money, Charm? I'm not, because I plan to be out hiking, biking, and kayaking right up until the day I pass from this planet. And
And did you say that you are taking no
yeah,
medicines now?
yeah.
And what people don't realize is that, sometimes when you start programs, you'll hear the words, these are not typical results. What do you say to that as far as this is concerned?
Stop it. That is the normal results, because once you start to put the right fuel, and I can make this comparison, because like when I win lotto, my first purchase is going to be a 1969 metallic blue convertible Corvette. That's my car. That's just my car. Kerosene, fantastic fuel. It runs jets. Okay. But if you take that kerosene and put it into that car, I will cry because you're going to kill that engine. You're going to hurt that car. That car will no longer run. At least the car has a little bit more intelligence than us. Our bodies keep trying. God bless them. They keep trying, regardless of the bad fuel that we're putting into the body, it still tries to run. And it doesn't do it very well, as you can see from all the chronic illness that we're seeing, the morbid obesity, the diabetes, the heart disease, the cancer, on and on. And I saw it in the classroom. Okay. I was born in 1960. That doesn't put me up there with the dinosaurs or anything, but okay, I didn't see my first autistic child until the 1990s. Now, according to the CDC, it's 1 out of 54. What has happened in 20, 30 years? What has happened? Why are our children so chronically ill? Why? It's the toxins in the personal care products. It's the toxins in the food. It's just the movie Secret Ingredients by Jeffrey Smith. Powerful, powerful movie. Oh my gosh. And he talks about these, and I've done interviews. I have a YouTube channel, Jeanne Schumacher, Simply Plant Based, and I've done interviews with a lot of these people. And when you start to listen to the same message over, and you hear it again and again and again, just the toxins that we're dealing with. And since World War II, over 10,000 chemicals have been introduced into the environment, and so we're living, eating, breathing them without question. So it's not a question of can we detoxify. It's like we have to try and live as toxic free as humanly possible, in this era. Um, it can be done. I mean, you're still going to have some toxins exposed to you because, like, air pollution, whatever. But you can make conscious efforts, just like going through whole food plant based. It's like, I call it I call it the trifecta, because you have to change what goes in, so that's food and drink. You have to change what goes on, so that's the personal care products and the environmental toxins you're being exposed to, and then you got to exercise. Those are the three primary foundations. You can't get around those. You have to have those three. So
Yeah. And your transformation took place when was it that you first walked into that emergency room? How long ago was that?
I think that was about 2009. 2009.
Right.
So
And so you've been going through this a
yes,
long
ma'am.
time, and one of the issues that people have sometimes is that they may be successful at losing weight, but they have a hard time keeping it off. How have you maintained this progress all of
Well,
this
and I
time?
still have ways to go. It's not like my weight and my fat and I have been together for a long time. It doesn't want to give up the mothership, you know. So, I mean, I still have some weight to lose. I'm not where I want to be, but here's the bottom line: I'm healthy, for now. I don't have any symptoms. I don't have any problems. I sleep like a baby. I have no pain, so life is good. So I'm still working on it. As a matter of fact, there's a huge concept I'm teaching. I teach classes. So if you go to Simply Plant Based, I've got classes. One of my classes coming up is on caloric density, and it's how I learned to lose weight, and keep it off. Because, honey, I like to eat. I do. I'm not going to lie. You've seen me eat, Charm. I eat. I'm telling you. Mm-hmm.
Tell us tell us a little bit more about calorie density, because that's a concept that is very important for
Right.
people to
Well, just
understand.
take a look at the word density per se. Okay. Mass per unit volume. And instead of putting mass, what we're doing is we're putting calories per unit volume. And in this case, the volume, we're talking about the number of calories that you're consuming. So in this case, what we're doing is we're looking at how many calories per pound. Okay. So you've got, green vegetables, things like that come in at like maybe 300, less than 300 pound, calories a pound. Fruits are a little bit higher caloric density, maybe 300 to 400, somewhere in that range. And then you have like lentils, beans, things like that, a little bit higher than that, 6, 7, 800 calories a pound. And then, oh, there's olive oil, 4,000 calories a pound. Boom. So like you think you're doing something heart healthy, like drizzling that olive oil. Oh, and as a society, we're of this group. If a little bit is good, let's bring on the dump truck. Beep beep beep. Back it up, dump it down. So we have this mindset of a lot. Just putting in more is going to be better. No, it's not. So just learning about caloric density and eating, so, overall low caloric density, I can eat a ton of food, and I do. I do. I don't. I don't. I don't weigh out portions. I don't count carbs. I don't count points. Oh my God, Weight Watchers! I just wanted to blow my brains out with that, because you're trying to figure out how to cheat. That's all you're doing is figuring out how to cheat. With the points. Can I bank my points for today? Can I borrow from tomorrow so I can have this key piece of cake? Yeah, no, it yeah, it's ridiculous.
And I love how you post your lunchbox on a regular
Right?
basis. The things that go into your
Yeah.
lunchbox. So that takes me to my next question: what is a typical day of eating like for
Well,
you?
I've kind of, moved on a little bit, because I used to eat just oatmeal. And one of the things that I found with oatmeal is that it breaks down very quickly. And if I'm eating oatmeal in the morning, I'm hungry all day. It's like my body starts it. So I need something savory to start my day. So I started doing the smoothie, okay, by Dr. David Denayev. Did several studies on this, and you can find on my YouTube channel the interviews that I did with him. Because oh my God, first of all, this was a study, and he was published in medical PubMed journals. And there are boring as tears. Just if you need something to put you to sleep, start reading these medical journals because boy, I'm telling you what, it's very technical writing. So it has to be in a very specific format kind of thing, and you're like. So what I did is I read the articles, and then I interviewed, Dr. Denayev, because this study that he did was so powerful. And in particular, the second study he did was for 7 days, and he took one group of people that he gave the smoothie to, and in 7 days they did the blood work before. Now these are people just eating the standard American diet, and all they did, they added one thing to their diet, just one, and their blood work was absolutely incredible. The C-reactive protein, which my doctor, by the way, said that would never change, because I wanted to have it tested again. She's like, "Why? It's not going to change once it's there, it's there." And I'm like, "Just humor me, and do it anyway." But the C-reactive protein in 7 days went down like by 45%, which measures the inflammation in your body, right? So 45%. So I'm like, this is pretty interesting. So I started doing the smoothies, and boy, and for me, I noticed automatically, I've seen, like, I was starting to lose on my bone density. And I use it's called a Tanita scale, which measures your bone density. It measures 11 different measurements on your body. So I noticed right away that my bone density was going back up once I started the smoothies. And incredible, no.
And with these smoothies, but kind of walk us through what you put in them because they're not just full of nothing but fruit,
Oh
correct?
no, 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 no. So there's a banana and blueberries, okay, for sure. For antioxidants, and the banana just gives it a nice base. So the um it's mostly greens. So I get, for my husband and I, make one smoothie in the morning for my husband and myself. And so those big containers of the big ones, the greens, I buy one of those and then a small one. So a big one and a small one goes into the blender. You'll never eat that much. So you're getting a lot of hyperalimentation, a lot of fiber into your diet. It will change the solid waste coming out of you. Just saying, it will change that. So for the good, and a lot of that fiber is going down through, and then just adding things like amla powder, high in antioxidants, things like that. So little almond milk, again, very alkalizing. So I have started adding tart cherry juice, which also has been renowned for inflammatory, to cut back on inflammation. So Dr. James Loomis, I got to do an interview with him, and he has a post recovery. This guy is amazing. He was in the Game Changers. At age 60, he did an Ironman. Do you know what an Ironman is?
Yeah, I've heard of them, and that's kind of hard.
Okay, but you know what they have to do?
There are like several different components to it.
Right. He, at age 60, I need you to understand this. At age 60, it's a 2.5 mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and 26.5 mile run. It's a full marathon in under 17 hours. I couldn't do that in 17 days or maybe 17 months. I mean, he did it at age 60 after recovering his body from, he had irregular heartbeats and he had some other health issues. Gone. He went plant based, 100%. Next question. And then he did a full Ironman. And he came up with this recovery drink. So if you just Google Dr. Loomis recovery drink, it's amazing. So I started adding some of the tart cherry juice to mine because I had already had a lot of the stuff in there already. So
Right.
yeah.
And then, other than your breakfast, what
Oh,
are some of the other things that you eat on a regular basis?
oh gosh.
I know
Good
you
stuff.
love potatoes.
Oh, yes, ma'am. They don't call me the starch queens for nothing. So potatoes are one of my favorites. I love it for what I call the potato hour at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when you get the hungries. I will take a potato, cut it up, put a little bit of sriracha sauce, which is a vegetable sriracha. It's made by a company called True Made Foods, and the specs are amazing. Just incredible, incredible, and the flavor. Oh, so you add that, you have that, and for less than 200 calories, you're full. You're going to be good to go for another several hours. And clean fuel. I call it clean fuel. So, and I would see this every day after school. They made me the after school study hall teacher, so I would be going around going, find something to do. You have to find something. Could you find something? I know you have homework. Why don't you get on it? I did that for an hour and a half. Yay! So I let the kids get a snack, and the only thing that they could get as a snack was the vending machine and crap in the vending machine. So they'd come in eating their candy and cookies and crap, and I could time it literally. Like within 45 minutes, their heads would be down on the desk. They'd have the sugar high and then the sugar low. And you would see it every day. And the kids who didn't eat the snacks, they were still upright and functioning. But the kids who had the snacks every day, I saw it. You could set your watch by it. It was incredible. But so okay, so for lunch I big salads. I mean, in my salads, people say, "Oh, that's all you eat is a salad." Well, you need to see my salads because just saying they're like the size of my head. You know, I need to just set up the trough in the kitchen. Just but there's a lot of things that go into my salad, and I mean a lot, in terms of phytonutrients and different, we're talking sweet peppers and beans and greens and lentils and I take green beans and cut them up. I love raw green beans and peas, raw peas. Oh, adore raw peas. And so these are all things that go into my salad every day, and it's a big thing. I mean, it's huge. So that will keep me going for hours, hours on end. And so yeah,
And it was because of you that I bought a steamer because I remembered one time you did a demonstration on steaming those vegetables, just raw vegetables, throw them in a steamer. And I do that even through to today. And that was back in 2017 that I
you
saw
learn
that.
well. Yeah.
I do. Now, listen, you've developed. You spoke about them a couple of times. You mentioned starch queens. You mentioned the simply plant based. Tell us about some of
Well,
your projects.
partly we go way back because Nancy Matthews and myself, we started doing. First of all, it started with me locally. I started doing these 10-day challenges to help lose weight because I needed some incentive because I'm very competitive, and so I thought, okay, if I can compete against somebody else, that'll make me go be a little more, whatever. So Nancy and I split up the country. So she was starting her plant-based journey about the same time, and we connected, and so we really just resonated quite well. And so we divided up the country. She took the West Coast, I took the East Coast, and we started having groups. And then you had your group, Plant-Based Atlanta, come in, and we started doing these challenges. And we had, I don't know, I think at one point we had 6 or 7 groups that were competing, at any given time, and we were seeing results. We were seeing results, and so that kind of fell by the wayside, and so I started simply plant based, and because I have a lot of information, I've been collecting and building so much educational material. So I work with people one on one. I used to have a weight program to help people, but I'm teaching now this year, so I don't, my time's limited. But I do work with people one on one to help them, and I still have all my educational materials. Like it's ridiculous how much educational materials I have, and because there's so much to learn. People are like, yeah, well, it's just eating plants. Okay, what about your vitamins? What about the nutrients? What about detoxifying? What about pans? What about there's just so much to learn. That your body, because basically throwing out everything that you learned growing up. In terms of nutrition, in terms of health, you're relearning everything. And so I have education programs. I still teach classes. I'm a teacher. I teach. And so you can go on my website, Simply Plant Based, and join in any of my classes. I'm constantly cycling them through. And back in the day, Plant City in Providence, Rhode Island, I was teaching them live there. I'm also going to be teaching them back again in Hyannis on Cape Cod. There's a place that opened up. It's called Bread and Roses, and they just opened up. And he just bought the place next door. And he's going to open up a kind of a community room cooking center kind of place. And I'm like, that'll be where I'm teaching next. So That's going to be fun. He's PCRM trained, Food for Life. He's a Food for Life instructor, so he's going to be doing some classes there too. So I'm excited to, I've got all these things, but I started doing the virtual classes because of, the plague that we're dealing with. And just, and just a, side note on the plague. I mean, I've known a lot of people who've gotten sick and people that have been plant based, and they hardly have had any, some people have gotten a little bit sicker than others, but honestly, the recovery has been amazing, from people that I've known, and some people are a little bit sicker, but they don't have to go to the hospital. They're not on respiratory machines. They're able to, their immune system works and they're able to fight it. So,
Yeah. Well, one final question for you. So, if you ran up against someone who is needing to lose a lot of weight
right.
and is open to a whole food plant based lifestyle, what advice would you give them?
Give yourself some time because it's a journey. You need to have some patience. This is not a diet because we've all heard that I've been good, I deserve a treat, and it's not about that. You need to get past that. So especially if you're dealing with food addiction and emotional eating, there's a lot. Because I'll be the first to go, hi, I'm Jeanne Schumacher, I'm a food addict, and I am, but I've learned it. People are like, you must have so much willpower. No, I just have learned about myself. And I think it's peeling back layers of an onion that you start to learn about yourself. Like, for example, I cannot have salt. Cannot have salt. It will raise my blood pressure in a New York minute. And so I have to be ridiculously careful if I'm eating out. And so, I may take a diuretic just to help me get rid of some of the fluids. Um, but I know it's because I'm eating out and it has salt in it. And you just can't avoid that because when you're eating out, they're not there for your health. They're there to make money and to provide a convenience for you, but they're there to make money. And so they're going to use the cheapest ingredients that they can make the most amount of money on. And one of the ingredients they're going to use is a lot of salt because it adds flavor at a very cheap level. So I have a hard time eating out. But I think learn about yourself. You're going to learn about it. Like I can't have salt. Caffeine doesn't seem to bother me. But Nancy, my other starch queen, she can't have a whiff of caffeine. I mean, that'll keep her up for days. Salt, no problem for her. Doesn't affect her at all. So you have to learn about yourself and to give yourself some love. Give yourself hugs. And say it's okay. It's a journey, and to know that it's going to get worse before it gets better because your body has to heal itself. So it's going to take some time to heal. And I think, if you need to find someone who's been there through that, either like, for example, and I recommend them all the time, the plant-based telehealth, .com. They're amazing doctors that are plant-based that can help you. There's also Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. They're doing, or the Barnard Medical Center, they're doing telemedicine, with plant-based doctors, somebody who knows what's going to be happening to your body can understand that, but also with a coach, and I work with people one-on-one to help them because there's so much that you have no idea what's coming. And I compare myself, or like this process of like Dorothy. You've seen The Wizard of Oz, right? Okay, so here's Dorothy. Her house just landed on the witch. She's dead. I just killed her. Uh-oh. You're surrounded by all these little people that are dressed weird, and you're like, am I having some kind of acid flashback from the 60s? What's going on here? I mean, she's just looking around and she's like, I just want to go home. And she's got these ruby slippers, and they're like, yeah, we got nothing for you. There's no GPS out here. We have no internet. You got to go see Oz. Okay. And so they send her on her way. Who does she run into? The Scarecrow, who knows absolutely nothing. And I compare that like to all the noise on the internet. And the Scarecrow's like, yeah, you seem to be knowing where you're going. Can I follow you? And she's like, whatever. Then they start going down the road. And by the way, down that road, there's going to be a witch who's going to be throwing fire bombs at you. And then there's winged monkeys that are going to pick you up and take you in the wrong direction. And I compare that to like paleo and keto because you're going in the wrong direction and you're going to hurt yourself long term. If anybody's out there listening to this who's considering going paleo, keto, do the research, please. Please do the research. Learn what's going to happen to your body as you're putting your body through this. First of all, you cannot sustain it, okay? But that's what I compare it as the winged monkeys. And so I think of like my job as going like, hey, psst, come here. there's a witch down there. She's going to throw fire bombs, and there's wing monkeys you don't want to mess with. I got a path here. Let's go the shortcut. Okay. And because it's taken me like, like 10, 11 years now to learn this information. And how many people have that kind of time to devote to that level of study, you know? So just give yourself some time, some patience, start incorporating, if you're slow to move, a meal at a time, a bite at a time. Because here's the bottom line. Because I'm a bottom line kind of person. Anything that you're doing to your body, it's either going to help it or it's going to hurt. There's no gray area here. So you know the difference. Okay, you're eating Oreo cookies. Going to help you? No. Okay. Next question. So you just got to make that stance. If I'm ready to do this, I want to heal my body, but there's a lot to learn. And there's a lot to deal with. There's food's big. Food runs in families. So it's hard. Yeah.
Well, I sure do appreciate your being here today, Jean.
Aw,
Thank you so much for being our guest.
aw.
You have given us so much information, and we applaud you on your success and continued success to you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me. It's always wonderful connecting with you, and I'm so proud of what you're doing at the T. Colin Campbell Center. Yeah.